And a lot of times with friendships, we don't talk enough about conflict resolution.
I don't want to be opening up the news and hearing that a sister hurt a sister.
There's a wider conversation to be had about human beings and our need to be onlookers and not protectors of people.
Right. Everything about this whole situation hurts.
Silence doesn't make you more liked. It allows you to lose more of yourself.
Right. Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
And I'm Courtney, and we are your online sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
Now we are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's conversation, we are going to be talking about the darkest side of fake friendship. We're about to get deep, and unfortunately this is based on a recent situation and crime, which a lot of you have actually sent.
Crime, guys.
Yeah, crime specifically. Let's call it what it is. A lot of you have actually sent to my DMs, our DMs, asking us to address the situation. And we're going to be talking about the Shanquella Robinson case. I'm sorry if I'm not saying her name right. But unfortunately, such a beautiful, entrepreneurial, just even if she wasn't all of those things, just a woman was killed at the hands of somebody she called a best friend.
Crazy.
And I want us to dive deep, and the sisters wanted us to dive deep into a conversation about discernment, picking your friends wisely, the importance of having good friends around you. And I thought we could actually take it a step further and talk about this situation from 3 different angles, which is because as much as people were sending it to me, and this is a long intro because this is a sensitive subject. If you are not familiar with the Shanquella Robinson incident, please do go and Google it. It's all over the news. Arrests have been made. And please get caught up on it because we need justice.
We need justice.
Yeah, but it's a very sad thing. And there is a video of the incident. So please watch with your own discretion. Viewer discretion is advised because it is quite traumatic. But she was killed at the hands of her best friend. And the situation that is basically she went to Cabo.
Oh, yeah, Mexico.
Yeah, she went to Cabo with her friends. And when she got to the hotel, you know, after telling her family, I'm going to Cabo with my friends to celebrate her birthday, she was ambushed in her room and beaten to death. And according to the autopsy, she actually died about 15 minutes after her injury. So she was like,
wow,
she was beaten severely. Yeah. But her friends actually told her parents that the reason why she was missing was because unfortunately she died from alcohol poisoning. But after the investigation, the police report, the autopsy, it revealed that she had such severe injuries that this couldn't have been due to alcohol poisoning. So that's when the red flags started to appear.
Right.
And it was found through investigation that actually, no, she was killed because there was video evidence. And the videos were captured by her friends who were present at her beating. So I wanted to take this from 3 different angles because most of the girls have been saying, you know, please sisters, like address this from the standpoint of how important it is to have good friends around you.
Right.
But I think sometimes we put the onus on you should have picked better friends.
Right.
When actually sometimes you just don't see this coming.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes the rhetorics we say around friendships, like, you know, loyalty or not forgiveness and all these things doesn't allow you to really nip bad behavior in the bud. And so I wanted to take this from 3 angles and kind of speak to the 3 parties in this situation, which is, you know, unfortunately Shanquella, who has passed because she had bad friends around her, whether known to her or not, probably not known to her. I wouldn't go on holiday with people I thought were bad.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah, let's get to that root cause of the importance of having good friends around you, but also somebody killed her.
Right.
And the viciousness of that heart talking to that person. I believe her name is Dejane. And then the friends that actually recorded this incident and us being silent standbyers, I guess, or bystanders of people's bad behavior. So it's going to be a deep conversation. Damn. But before we get into it, it's a ding, ding, ding
dilemma.
Yeah, and this one is even raggedy.
I should have brought a cup of tea or something.
Hella raggedy. So, hey sisters,
Hey.
I'm the eldest daughter in a single parent family, and I've always been someone who just faced their books and focused on studying. I wasn't the type to go out and come home really late or get involved with boys, etc. However, my mum is eternally ungrateful and acts like I'm a problematic daughter. She has sabotaged so many milestones of my life to the point where I don't even know how to be joyous about my achievements anymore. And if something good happens, I'm suspicious because I'm so used to chaos. She gave me the silent treatment at my prom, when I got my offer at uni, at a top uni, when I told her I graduated with the first class, and to top it off, she didn't even come to my graduation. Her silent treatment lasts for months until I come back to her to apologize. She'll also tell my brothers about how problematic I'm being, so they've started to have a negative view of me. I just feel like the family scapegoat. I celebrate my achievements alone or with friends, but my family are constantly guilt tripping me to make me feel horrible about myself. Any tips?
Damn. First of all, I'm so sorry that that's your experience. I think it can be really difficult, especially when it comes to navigating our relationships with our parents. And I think especially as women, navigating that relationship with your mother. And I think even just upon reflection upon the kind of behavior that we advocate for onto my sisters, we often think it's a case of, you know, just talk to her and have the conversations. And sometimes transparent conversations are not enough to get the output that you want, or the scenario that you're looking for. So as much as we can also sit here and say, you know, go and have a chat to her and converse with her and stuff like that, I think there's something important in recognizing that your mother comes from a different time, probably a different culture. Your mother's also probably dealing with a lot of different things. It seems that she's got, you know, some kind of like issues, personal issues, potentially even mental health issues that she might want to, you know, work on herself, and it's not your responsibility, right? I think there's a difference between having those transparent conversations and taking responsibility for issues that are not necessarily yours to deal with. I think there is some element of trying to find different ways to engage with your mother. So if, you know, the head-butting conversations of like, let's sit down and talk this out isn't working, maybe it's a case of, let me try this in a more softer way, insofar as, you know, trying to spend more time with your mother outside of the realms of any achievements that you've been having, any kind of like family situations that you may be having, maybe doing things like spending more time and going to lunch potentially. I know it's kind of awkward and strange, but really trying to build that friendship with your mother outside of that mother-daughter dynamic that you currently have could help with softening and really building up that friendship and setting the tone for you to be able to have those conversations with her. And I think also continuing to build up that base of community that you have around you. So the fact that you mentioned that you celebrate with your friends is really, really great, really important. I love that for you. So continue in that vein. I think also you haven't really mentioned much about your father, so I'm not really sure whether you have a dynamic with him, whether he's still present in the picture, or, you know, whatever has happened. But we're just going to go based off of the information that you have, you know, given us. In terms of your other siblings as well, it's really important that you have a direct relationship with them and you're very intentional about engaging with them. I've seen it time and time again where it's like, whether intentionally or unintentionally, you may have, you know, parents that are contributing or facilitating greater feelings of just resentment amidst siblings. And it's really important that you overcome that by having direct, transparent conversations, at least with your siblings. And I think even in that sense, it's important because your siblings could advocate for you or potentially be involved insofar as engaging with your mother and actually trying to be the middle person, or like the go-between. I think there's also that dynamic. You mentioned your brothers, so I can imagine that it must be really tough being an eldest but also an eldest daughter. So really having the conversations, at least with your brothers who are closer in age, potentially closer in culture, potentially closer in environment, and really just saying like, look, bros, this is the situation. I'm not going to mince my words around here, and I could actually do with your support in trying to build up this family. I think that would be really, really helpful in terms of having a multi-pronged approach to dealing with this relationship. And then the last thing that I'll say, because I've really spoken at length, is take your time with it. Take your time. One thing that I've really been reflecting on in the past few weeks is how important it is to give yourself time and space for healing and restoration, especially in relationships that are fundamental to your life, fundamental to your development and growth, because they're so rooted and they have been rooted in this kind of like cyclical nature for so long. It will take considerable time to get the resolution that you want. And you also have to make peace with the fact that you may not get the resolution that you want exactly. So celebrating the small wins that you may have as you go on this journey of trying to, you know, bring your family together, trying to make some improvements in that family dynamic, and not getting disheartened if when you're initially trying, things are not working out. It's about having that persistence, that hope, that faith, and really ensuring that you have a community of people in your friends, but also your siblings, to really pour into you during this time as you really pursue this this agenda of family restoration. So that's what I would say, Courtney.
Yeah,
but
I think
what about you?
I think I agree with everything you said. I think having a good relationship with your siblings built off of your own interactions with them is going to be very important, in order for your mum to not kind of tarnish your reputation as she's kind of doing, and for them to get their own impression of you. I don't know how young they are, but they're probably very susceptible and impressionable to your mother's opinion. And so just making sure that you are present with them and building a relationship with them, which, you know, just for your own integrity and morality doesn't also taint her too negatively, will be important. But I do think that the core of this is just, if you haven't already, letting your mum know that you've identified a pattern and that this is how it makes you feel. So, you know, mum, I want you to be present at these celebrations. I want you to be a part of my life in this way. And I've just noticed, like, when these times come, this is how you behave. And I wanted to know, is there something I've done to offend you? Is there something that makes you uncomfortable about these situations? What's going on, basically, and let her know that you've noticed it. You may not get a very upfront, honest answer, but at least she knows. And then the ball's in her court to try and repair it. I do think with our parents, we do have to embrace at some point that whether it's jealousy, disappointment, discomfort, anger, lack of feeling like they're losing control, whatever it is that is kind of triggering this response out of her, at some point, if they don't want to overcome it for the betterment of your relationship with them, like Renee said, you can't force it. You can't force that change. You can't force a good relationship to come out of this. And it takes two. It takes two to tango. If your mother doesn't want to help prepare that after you've let her know, this is affecting me, this is affecting us, then it may be an opportunity to just step back and also reset your expectations. Because I think if you know, you find yourself continuously being disappointed by this fact, and obviously you're seeking resolution, I think you may have to just, it's sad, but you may have to tinker with your expectations to say, you know what, maybe my friends are my family now, or maybe, you know, these are the people that I celebrate things with, and my parents or my mother specifically is not that person that I go to for a beacon of celebration. And sometimes just having that knowledge of, this is the person I go to for this, and this is the person I do not go to for this, helps you to at least temper your feelings of disappointment towards the situation if it ever were to arise again. So yeah, I'm sorry, sis. This one doesn't, I mean, none of the Dilemma episodes ever have like a clear cut, oh, here's a guarantee that everything will be okay. But I do think that it has the potential to get better. It all depends on how responsive your mum wants to be. So yeah, I am so sorry that you're experiencing this, because I know that it can be very painful when you want to celebrate things with people and they don't come through. And even worse, they make you feel bad for celebrating. But don't worry. You have people around you who love you and who are championing you. Invest in those relationships, love and be grateful for those relationships, and spend more time around the people who are celebrating you. I think there's that saying that says, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. Girl, stay where you're celebrated.
Down these sides,
100%. We, I mean, first class babe, graduate. Congratulations, top uni.
Right.
You did it. You've done it.
Right.
Find some sisters who will take you to brunch, pop some party poppers over your head, pour out a mimosa or something, and enjoy that.
You know, I'll never forget, like when we finished our degrees.
Yeah, the trashing and the people being like, not trashing in a bad way. Sorry, trashing is like you've just finished your exams and you walk out and people come and they throw stuff on you, like. shaving cream.
It's
We
the
got a
fact
whole
that you
bunch
say
of
not in a
kava.
bad way, but when you describe it, it sounds terrible.
No, trashing sounds like people were gossiping about you and like dogging your name behind your back. But like, no, trashing, like, I mean, it's bad. It's annoying.
God,
It's
it is
annoying, but
it is not black girl friendly, I must say.
There we go. But alas, it is tradition. But like, just go where you're celebrated. And us here at the Sisterhood, we celebrate you.
Absolutely.
All right. So girls in the comments, please drop a little party popper or something and say
Right.
congratulations
Champagne
on your
bottle.
graduation, baby girl. Let our good sis feel celebrated. But we hope that this dilemma answer helped you in some way. If you ever want to send us a dilemma yourself, they are all kept anonymous, and you can send it to dilemmas@tomysisters.com and we will get through to it for sure at some point.
At some
in our
stage.
attempts. So I know some people are listening like, I sent you a dilemma 2 years ago.
I'm still waiting. You see, the thing about that is, but all will be, we're trying.
We're trying. We are
trying.
thinking of solutions to this
Oh,
issue.
there's some solutions will come your way very sooner than you think.
But alas, into the main conversation. It is a heavy one. It is a deep one. It almost feels true crime-esque. But I think the reason why this conversation is so heavy is obviously it's a very tragic incident to be talking about. But also, it's a sister, man.
Man.
It's a sister, and she was killed by her best friend.
That's wild. That is so wild. Clooney, I hope.
Listen, no, I'm not gonna lie. When I was doing research into the episode, I said, if Renee, if she ever. But you know what made it more insidious for me is just knowing this was definitely premeditated.
Right.
She was definitely lured to this room, to this situation, and she was ambushed. And the thing about an ambush, she looked like she had just, if you watch the video, like I said, viewer discretion is advised. She looks like she had just been, she had just come out of the shower or out of the bathroom, or she was getting ready or something. The girl was basically naked, and I have been beaten naked, unfortunately. No, I will tell my trauma. I was maybe 9, maybe 8. And I don't know, I had done something to upset my mom.
betterhelp.com/2mysisters.
Yeah. And you know, my mom was the disciplinarian, and I was in the bathroom having a bath, bucket bath specifically. And I've poured water on my body, and you know, I'm bathing, minding my business. Do you know how vulnerable you are
In a bucket
when
bath.
you're naked and wet?
In a bucket bath as well, because it's like, at least with the shower, it's like,
And we don't even have like a shower
curtain or like
no.
a screen. Or,
If someone opens that door, you're exposed.
you're naked.
You're standing
and the thing
right
is,
there.
you're just there, like,
Cold air's coming in and everything. And she came in and she just gave me a right pop. And I said, wow, this is what it means to be ambushed. I learned a hard way. And I just think to this situation, you know, that was my mom. She stopped, you know.
Yeah.
But imagine being ambushed and then a whole bunch of people flood in and are recording you. And the only question they're asking you is, aren't you going to fight back? Why are you letting her beat me?
There were so many. Do you know what? I think everything about this whole situation hurts, because it's the way they ambushed her, the reason that they ambushed her as well, which today is, to me, very, very unclear, because I don't know. I don't understand what warrants that kind of behavior in any circumstance or situation. I don't know. And sisters, come and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was like watching and listening and just hearing more about the case, I was like, I don't know what warrants that kind of behavior from people that you would consider friends. I don't know.
This is it. And that's obviously this is an ongoing case. Recent arrests have been made, but it's very new. And so a lot of things are unfolding. And unfortunately, the only people who really know what went down are the people that were in that room, one of which is dead. So it's very much like, we don't know the circumstances surrounding it. And even in this episode, we can't be like, oh, it's because she was jealous. Oh, it's because she did this. We can't. But what we can say is when it comes to friendship, what can warrant such a response?
This is the thing. I think one disclaimer, or one thing that I want to say straight off the bat, and I'm glad that you said it even when you were talking about the context of the case, is we cannot allow this to become a victim blaming exercise.
Exactly.
We straight off the bat, it's always like and it makes me think of folks that are victims of other crimes, right? It's like, what did you do to provoke such a consequence?
Yeah. Or why were you associated with such people?
Exactly that. Or like, you know, couldn't you have seen the red flags before and stuff like that? Some of those flags stay hidden. And I think it's very important to ensure that in the pursuit of justice, we don't try and force accountability onto the victims totally, right?
Yeah.
I think there's some elements insofar as, you know, thinking about friendship, and I think it's provoked the wider conversation of how can I choose friends and how can I, you know, discern the signs before something, not even before something like this happens, but before you find yourself in a situation that could have been prevented. This particular incident, whilst it's provoking those conversations, it's important to divorce this and say, whilst I can have the conversation around what makes a good friend and how to avoid people who don't have my best interests at heart, what we're not going to do is actually blame someone like Shanquella and say, well, she should have picked better.
Exactly.
That's not what we're going to do here.
We can't.
That's
We
not the take.
can't, and that's not what we're going to do in the sisterhood. And I think this is a perfect example of why we have conversations quite often about being the villain.
Right.
Because oftentimes we think with conversations about friendship, it's how do I keep my enemies far? And it's like, but what stops you from becoming an enemy?
Right.
If you don't know what seeds are in your heart, what feelings can arise, what bad habits you haven't dealt with. And so I think the first person that we should address and use kind of as an example to talk about wisdom in approaching friendship is, I think her name is Dejane. I think it is.
The perp.
The perp.
The perp.
The perp. The killer. Let's call it what it is. The killer. And so I think with this situation, it's hard to even probe questions, but like, what should a person be looking for in themselves so that they never get to this far?
Right. So the first thing that I also want to address just in the sisterhood is we are anti-violence. As much as we love to banter,
we be shouting world star and
as
stuff.
As love as we be bantering and saying, you know, world star, and sometimes actions have consequences. When it comes to violence, we are strongly anti-violence against women, perpetrated by women. This is an anti-violence community. If you have an issue with someone, the goal is always resolution and restoration. And if that's not possible, you burn the bridge and you keep it moving. There we go. There should never be, for me, violence is like extra off the chart.
Yes.
There's like 10 of anger. Violence is like, if you're able to commit a violent act, that is indicative of you have problems that need to be sorted out ASAP. That's like the extremities. So in terms of like, you know, thinking about yourself and thinking like critically around how can I prevent myself in becoming a villain? The first is, if you're at that extremity where when you're provoked, your first and natural response is violence, we have a problem. Stop there. Because I know, you know, I've encountered folk where it's like, it's actually scary to be in your presence, right? Where it's like, folks will be out here punching walls. They'll be talking about, I get in frequent fights. So if you're getting in frequent fights, physical fights, if your inclination is to reach for a bottle or something, or if you're all in the name of like defending your name, you have a problem, and you actually need to not be around people for a while, genuinely speaking, because not only are you a danger to other people, you're a danger to yourself.
Facts.
And you could end up harming yourself, like indirectly. You could get in a fight, and if you lose,
you're getting your ass kicked.
You're getting whooped.
But also, she's going to prison.
You go into jail. There's consequences to that kind of behavior. It's illegal for a reason, because grievous bodily harm is a crime.
Come on, somebody.
Murder
is a crime.
Whether it's manslaughter, whether it's premeditated,
crime.
it is a criminal activity, and we do not condone criminal activity in this.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times the internet, or even things like, you know, the cultures that we're brought up in, they trivialize it. Like the story I told about my mum, right? But at the same time, it's kind of like, that's an extreme place to go.
Absolutely.
My mum's not like that anymore. She is reformed. We will go through some before somebody's like, you should have called child. We will go through stuff in that house.
There'll be childline kisses.
Shut up. That's my mama. But also, like, there's that place of, we have normalized certain things so much that it's like, hold on a minute, why is that your go-to response? Like, oh, if you insult me, if you know, cross me wrong, you've got the wrong one, and I will throw hands at you. I think some people will be like, well, yeah, that's how we do things. You know, that's how you defend your name. That's how you defend your honor. But we also need to get to the root of why do you feel like you have to defend yourself to such an extreme, right? And I think there is some sympathy you can have, not necessarily for this villain, but for people who feel as though they must, they have to defend themselves to that extent. Where it's like, do you feel like your words cannot be heard? Do you feel like you can't even process your own emotions enough? That the only way you can express yourself, defend yourself, and protect yourself is to inflict such harm on the people around you.
Right.
I think it shows such a lack of development in the other areas of conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times with friendships, we don't talk enough about conflict resolution. And
come on now.
If you piss me off as a friend, right? Even you, like if we rarely have like altercations or wait, that altercations made it sound serious.
I know.
We rarely have arguments anyway. But if you were to get on my nerves or something, I think because of where I've come along in my personal development journey,
Right.
I know how to express myself. And I think as people who are glowing and growing and all of that, we also need to find ways to deal with conflict, discomfort, and feelings of offense.
Right.
And sometimes that's not done. We just justify our behavior because we are purely fueled by emotion. And it's like, yeah, you are, but your emotional responses will have consequences.
Absolutely.
And so as people who are maturing and who are growing up and also have a custody and duty of care to the people who are in our lives, it is in our best interest to learn how to resolve conflict, how to resolve feelings of discomfort, and a lot of us don't see that duty of care part. We don't we don't have critical enough conversations about if we were to be in a situation, an altercation, how would you like to be treated? How would I like to be treated? What are your boundaries around this as well? But also, what are my struggles?
Right. And there's an element in there around personal philosophy and your belief systems as well, right? Insofar as like, why do you think that it is appropriate to solve conflict through destruction, particularly bodily harm? That's really, really destructive. Like even when I think of the altercations that we have, even the whole going to the extreme of throwing hands, I don't think it has ever crossed my mind of like, I'm going to hit anybody
not
anytime.
Even in a fantasy.
There has been like times where I've been annoyed at people and it's like, oh yeah, I could throw a soccer punch or something like that. But in terms of the intention behind my behavior and my actions, if this is somebody that I hold dear to me and if this is somebody that I call a friend or a sister, there would never be a circumstance under which I would want to cause utter destruction. Because I think there's one thing around like, okay, cool, you've pissed me off and I've hit you and that was bad. But the repeated, premeditated nature of this particular situation has me genuinely concerned. In fact, worried and just
alarmed.
Yeah, you definitely need to go to jail because you have gone to a place of utter destruction of this person. You have gone to a place of no return. And unfortunately, it's actually resulted in the death of your friend or your alleged friend. And it's like, the fact that this wasn't even something that was considered, like, I don't know, I'm not in her mind or whatnot.
Yeah, of course.
All that kind of stuff. I can't project, but it's just like, if I'm causing harm to this person and I can see that I'm actually getting the upper hand here and I'm beating her within an inch of her life, surely there needs to be some kind of internal regulation that's like, yo, I gotta cool off here before something happens. And if that is missing, I think that's very indicative of not even just like a processing concern, but you have a mental health issue that we need to address
100%. And I think that's the thing, it's the internal regulation or the self-regulation where it's like, and I'm sure a lot of people will be like defending, and I can understand to an extent for a lot of people, especially when your main emotion that you feel to the core of you is rage, you will just black out. You don't know what the heck is going on. And I think obviously we cannot pathologize and like diagnose anything, but I think in this situation, from what you could see, this is a person who is not thinking in their right mind. And so there is that level of self-awareness and actual sense and ability to self-regulate, where it's like, surely in a situation you need to learn how to remove yourself from something before it gets too far. But in this case, it seems like she came with the intention for it to go too far.
You have to go to jail. You actually have to go to jail, because that's not even
this is evil.
I was about to say the word
this
evil.
Is evil. This
is
a bad character.
I was trying to find a nice way to say evil. This is actually evil. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't say, I can't do the whole opening this community back to you with open arms and stuff, like, because you gotta go to jail.
100%.
That was evil, especially the premeditated nature of it. And obviously there are certain degrees to which sometimes we cause premeditated harm, right? And I will be first to put my hands up to say that, you know, sometimes in situations where it's like you're speaking to a friend and they've annoyed you and you're intentionally causing harm with the words that you use, or there'll be times where like you're younger and you'll shove your sister or something like that. That's premeditated. I'm trying to cause some harm there. Inflict some pain. But the extent and the extremity to which this was wrought, that is actually evil. That actually requires, you got to go to jail. And I think that sometimes when we're thinking about just more broadly conversations around accountability, restoration, forgiveness, just because we can forgive does not mean that you don't have to go to jail. You must sit with the consequences. What you did was evil. And I think
you must go to prison.
Right. You must go to prison specifically, and you actually need to serve time, jail sentence.
Specifically.
And I say this as a bigger metaphor when we're thinking about forgiveness, restoration, and accountability in female communities, but also more widely in society, right? I think that this is a what's the word? Metaphor, but metaphor is actually not the right word. It's more of like a
case study,
microcosmic. That's the word I was looking for. I think this is microcosmic of the conversations we need to have at a zoomed out perspective on society around restoration, accountability, justice. Just because you are worthy of forgiveness does not mean that you eschew the consequences. You do the crime, you gotta do the time. And what you did was evil, and evil has consequences. And you have to sit with that. So whilst, you know, especially for us as Christians, there's the whole paradigm of forgiveness. Forgiveness is so central to the gospel. We're also very much tasked with the importance of upholding justice and accountability, and also just thinking about the ramifications of the harm, right? The harm that was caused, not only did it cause bodily injury to Shanquella, but her family. Jesus. When you take somebody's life, you're not just taking their life right there and then. You're taking away their life away from their families. Thinking about her mother, her siblings, thinking about her cousins, her other friends that she had back home. It's like the destruction that you wrought in that single moment, or those moments of rage and anger, will like reverberate over time and space because you couldn't get it together, or because you couldn't find a way to process your rage or your anger, or because you thought that it was cool to beat someone up, or because that was just the initial way that you were going to deal with that situation. And it's like, I need people to really sit with like, actions have consequences. We need to be more critical. We need to sit down, and this is why the glowing and growing journey isn't just about, you know, being pretty and doing the boss babe and When we say working on your character, we mean becoming a better person, so that when you do integrate with society, these kind of things don't happen. We're building community so that we can hold these kind of people accountable. We're building community so we can avoid these kind of situations from happening in the first place. We're building community because it's so important. Like, the damage that's been caused by this situation is so sad. Even beyond their family, it's like, even the fact that we're talking about it, right, and the fact that we're so horrified by such an incident, it's like, it's so frustrating because it shouldn't have happened. It's happened, but it shouldn't have happened. And it breaks my heart because I hate seeing women harmed.
Exactly.
Whether the perpetrator is a woman or not, it's like, I hate seeing harm come to women. And it's like, if there's anything else that we can be doing to prevent these kind of situations, whether it is building better communities, but more importantly, ensuring that we're better people, which is what the glowing and growing journey is about, then we're going to do it. Because I don't want to be opening up the news and hearing that a sister hurt a sister. I don't want to be seeing on the news somebody's mother or somebody's father crying because their daughter has been harmed.
And this is the thing, you take all this life, you take away this potential because you had this need to be avenged, and it was by any means necessary. And it's sad to think a mother is mourning the loss of their child. And I can now begin, as I get older anyway, and it will probably get even deepened when I become a parent, but like, I can now understand why our parents were so protective about where are you going and who are you going with, right? And because the people that we are trusting you with, it's not about our lack of confidence in you, it's people are crazy. People out there are absolutely insane. And that's the thing, like, I don't want as a sisterhood, we have to set a culture of some kind, and that's what like the guide to sisterhood is all about. That's what our conversations are all about, learning and setting personal boundaries, personal morality, personal vision statements, but also setting a culture and a standard to which we uphold ourselves. And what I'm realizing now is not everyone has the same mindsets surrounding friendship. Not everyone has the same mindset surrounding the way they treat other human beings. And it's important for us to catch those people who seem to be straying in the wrong direction, and to have conversations which say, hey, that's a problem, right? And so that brings me to the people who should have been having those conversations with her.
I'm so glad that we got here, because
and that's the onlookers and the bystanders and her so-called friends who stood around and watched as she was being beaten so brutally that she died. And you can hear, voices, aren't you gonna fight back? And somebody's standing there recording this video too. And so I think that there's a wider conversation to be had about human beings and our need to be onlookers and not protectors of people.
Right.
That's the first thing. And the second thing of, they were not just accessories to this crime, they were integral to this crime. Right.
Absolutely.
So we draw our attention to the onlookers.
Oh, the onlookers. There's a quote that goes, all evil needs to prevail is good people to do nothing.
Yeah.
And that was probably the thing that infuriated me the most about this situation, is the fact that this wasn't a crime that was committed in isolation. This wasn't something that was committed in a back alley. This was we're going on holiday as friends, and I've seen two friends like literally tooth and neck together, right? Not even tooth and neck together. One is actually being extremely violent to the other. And it's not like they're, folks were paralyzed with fear or unable to actually intervene.
They knew she was coming to do
this. They chose to record this. And instead of actually intervening before things got really messy and dark, you're out here talking about, aren't you going to fight back?
They used it as entertainment.
Jail. And you in the back recording jail. In fact, you should probably have the longest. In fact, you should have the longest. You should actually have the longest jail sentence. There is just something so insidious about more widely in culture and society, there's just something so insidious about being an onlooker. You're having this voyeuristic what's the word? You're having this you're just sitting back whilst this is occurring right before your eyes and not intervening. And it's like, again, to me, thinking about some of our friends and like the groups of friends that we have, under no circumstance could I ever watch, say, a Courtney beating on a babe and not intervene. There's no circumstance. Facts. And just thinking about, obviously we're here trying to build community and we're thinking about the ethos that we, have built this foundation on. What kind of culture do you have as friends to allow, first of all, your friends to fight in your presence, but fight to the point of death?
Right.
That's the bit that really gets me, because I think there's one thing around like, okay, this is not my business and not my place to intervene, even though that wasn't the case here because you guys were all accessories. But there's one thing of like, I'm gonna step back and allow them to handle it. But when harm is involved and when you can see or you are a participant in that harm that's being perpetrated, you have a duty of care to ensure that people are actually okay, right? Just baseline basic stuff of your friend is being beat. Okay, we're not saying that you need to go and, fight the babe that's beating her.
No.
Calling the feds, very, very easy.
Facts.
Being able to separate the two, you had the numbers.
You have the numbers that you cannot, as much as that woman was really going in, you cannot tell me that the 6 or so of you that were standing around watching could not take her on to be like, you know what, we might have come here to watch a fight, which obviously we don't agree with, but now you're taking it too far. She literally threw that girl's body onto the ground. You cannot tell me you guys thought you were watching Thanos fight people.
Do you know what I mean?
That's not what it takes.
And
I think what you've highlighted is 2 key issues, which is this stupid rhetoric of loyalty. I think it's not just, about being loyal. Loyalty is important. It's a great virtue to have, but it's not just about being loyal to a fault in this situation. It's about being loyal to the wrong things.
Right.
If you are loyal, but you're allowing bad behavior to happen, you are not loyal. You are a criminal. That's not loyalty. No, that's not loyalty.
No, it is.
As much as people are like, oh no, it's loyalty, I'll always have your back. I cannot have your back if you are destroying yourself. And as much as people make it sound as though, oh no, but she was just angry and she's taken, not in this specific situation, but oftentimes you see my friend is angry and I want them to get that emotion out. There has to be a clear black and white understanding, or even if it's a gray area, understanding of the fact that this actually isn't helping anybody.
There we go.
You can blow off steam. If you want to blow off steam, punch that vase. But in this case, it was like, no, you have a specific outlet in mind and I'm going to support that. And you have to start being mindful of what you are supporting as a friend through your silence. Because as much as you may say, but I wasn't the one who told them to do that, or I wasn't the one who I wouldn't have had that approach. Okay, but you co-signed it with your silence. And a lot more of us have to start stepping out as much as it's like, but I don't want to ruffle any feathers. If you are going to be there to help your friends become better people, which is a huge part of why you are their friend, you have to be willing to step up to them and be like, you know what, I can't condone this behavior. And also let me help you see your foolishness in this situation. And that's what sisterhood is. It's about having very blunt conversations that let people know, I've got to call you out on your BS. There's something we always say about female friendships, which is no one can call you out like a woman can, right? Another woman can. And I think it's important for us. A lot of us use that brutal honesty for disrespect, right? But actually there's a place for us to use that brutal honesty for construction and for betterment. This was an opportunity for that to be brought out. And obviously her friends were both male and female, but we're talking about in this in the case of sisterhood, right? And the second flaw that it presents is our generation's love for drama. And I really do blame reality TV for this issue. A lot of times we sit there behind our TV screens on looking like, beat her ass, she can't talk to you, like at the reunion you should throw hands, go off, pop off, sis. In real life, what you don't have is what they have on those sets. There we go. Which is security, first aid, lawyers backing them, and people who will adamantly, for their covering their own asses, tell them, whilst you can scratch her baby, you cannot go too far because then we'll have a lawsuit on our hands. People who are watching reality TV which perpetrate these things and show these things as examples of conflict resolution, you don't have that same protection behind you. If somebody is truly crazy and they think that this, because of the love of drama, they can pop off on you, or they can just be onlookers in real life, you don't have somebody who's coming to your rescue. The people coming to your rescue are the ones that are holding up cameras to record you because of that love for drama and because of this disassociation from the fact that this is real life. This can't be rewinded. This can't be, you know, a simple blooper reel moment. This has eternal consequence. Absolutely. That girl's life is lost and it cannot be brought back because somebody decided this would be a whole bunch of fun.
And the thing is, like, you guys were not even smart, because you were probably out here recording it thinking, oh, I'm going to get hella views and this is going to be so funny to watch back in, like, you know, a couple months time. And now that's going to be used to prosecute you. And I hope that's used to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. In fact, if they need witnesses, we've seen
it. We can come and testify. No, because genuinely, our generation in this area, we're becoming more and more tapped.
Hawks.
So many of us are becoming so disassociated from real life and detached from real life.
It's like we become more detached than less connected from human beings in reality, and obsessed with watching to the point that we are watching in real time in real life and yet disassociating just because we want to produce something that's tidy or showy or something that's funny or something that we can submit to World Star Hip Hop or submit to the Shade Bar or submit to the Shade Room. And it's like, to what end?
To what
probably
end?
Not to the end that Miss Shanquella ended up with.
Exactly.
And probably not to the end of you guys being jail time.
This whole situation has brought an end to our World Star Hip Hop campaign. It's over.
Oh, no, we're done here. You guys obviously took it too far.
You've taken it far. And I think that it's the perfect example of the fact that as friends, you have a duty of care, not only to the people who can sometimes find themselves as victims, but also to protecting bad people from themselves.
Right.
Because oftentimes bad people don't think they're bad
people.
We go. And we don't think they're bad people. They were calling each other friends for a reason. But it takes wisdom in all things. Sisters, I beg of you, get wisdom. It takes wisdom to be able to identify, hey, you have something very dysfunctional inside of you, and someone needs to take a step back and tell you we can't do this. In the plotting and the schemings and the planning to kill somebody, you're telling me that none of the 7 of you thought in your head. But that's the thing. One of the 7 of them probably thought it. That this is a dumb idea. This is a dangerous idea. This is wrong. Did nothing. And that brings us to a conversation about flipping peer pressure. Because so many of us desire to be liked so much that we can't even stick up for good and bad.
Oh my gosh. No. Even online, right? You'll see folks who will have some kind of take, or they'll be doing something and it's like the witch hunt against them, but you said absolutely nothing. The idleness and the laziness when it comes to upholding codes of conduct, morality, respect. It's like, this is why it's so important to design the culture and design your moral codes. This is why the glowing and growing journey is about building character and actually having a belief system from which you operate from. Because if you don't have a firm belief system, you are going to be swayed like the wind. You are going to be obsessed with the opinions of other people. You are going to be moved by the most ridiculous things online, but also in person. And it means that when the times of testing come, you're just going to fold like a garden chair.
Yes.
And it's embarrassing because it's like, had anybody, all it takes is one person.
One whistleblower.
To say, yo, this is not cool.
And you know how we know that someone had the capacity to at least do the right thing? How did that video surface?
Precisely.
Because somebody was guilty.
And it's also the whole coming back after she had died, after presenting this story of alcohol poisoning. One of them had actually gone to their parents and said, this is how she died.
This is how she died. Here's her belongings.
Do you have like her belongings? Shame? Do you think you could come back to my parents with this kind of story?
But it aids to their whole plan, right? Which is, we're going to kill her and we're going to get away with it. This is becoming a true crime podcast. But what is important to kind of highlight from what you said as well is silence. Silence doesn't make you more liked. It allows you to lose more of yourself.
Right.
Like there's a reason why you're present in these situations, right? To be a light in these situations. And even if there's this thing in you which is like, this is not right, as much as you may be thinking, but my friends, everyone else is on it, everyone else is, you know, if I speak out, I'm going to be the odd one out, blah 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 blah. If justice means you have to lose all of your friends, you still have to pursue justice.
You have to.
There are people who will love you. You can find new friends. All your friends are going to be in jail anyway. You're going to need to find new friends. Do you want us to be practical or not? You're gonna need new friends anyway.
I mean,
and is this the company you want to keep? Because the question is, if she can do that to her, she will do it to you.
110. And
all of them will do it to you. And so many of us, we want to partake and please people who are allowing bad behavior. But trust me, if next time it's you with your ass on the line, they're not coming to save you either. Your friends are showing you their character. They are showing you who they truly are. This time, you're on the safer end of it. Next time, you might not be. Now what? Who sleeps well knowing they actually cannot trust their friends?
There we go. And again, it's the conversations around like power and power dynamics that we have within not just female circles, but just in friendships in general, right? Having mutual respect, mutual understanding, and mutual codes of conduct as to how to engage with other people.
Yeah.
Like as soon as there is some kind of like wrongdoing, having the comfort to be able to call out your friend is important and necessary. And it feels like in this case, did nobody have any kind of comfort in calling out this babe for the way that she was behaving?
The way she beat up Shanquella, she would have beaten them too.
All 7 of them.
I wouldn't put it past her.
I mean, I hear it, but it's
one
like
by one, not at the same time.
Not at the same time, but still. But it's like, I mean, she would be in jail.
Yeah, facts. But at the same time, I think that's the thing. It's like fear and self-preservation, right?
Fear and self-preservation. And sometimes you have to put that. The funny thing is, sometimes you have to not give into fear and eschew self-preservation to preserve yourself in the long run. Because had we had a couple of them stand up, it's like actually having Shanquella might still be with us.
Yeah.
B, it's like
safety in numbers.
Right, safety in numbers. B, it means that, you know, you're actually a true friend. Like when we say true friend, when we say the word friend, don't use this term lightly. When we say the word friend, we really mean somebody that we've chosen to do life with. You know, they say friends, as you said earlier, friends are the family we've chosen. Yeah. Obviously, there's the choose wisely, but also be that person that's a good friend.
That's the thing.
Right? It's like, the thing about the book that, you know, we're releasing is not just about picking good friends. It's about being a good friend.
Yeah.
It's about being a good friend. And I implore you, sisters, really inspect. This is not, again, about you and you just being a boss babe or whatever. It's about, are you actually a good person?
Yeah.
Have you defined what that looks like for you? In your friendships, have you defined what does a good friendship look like? What is our code of conduct? How do we deal with things? Do we have any kind of understanding or desire to really pursue justice when it comes to injustice being flung at us? Do we check each other on our behavior when it's going too far? What are the extremities as well? Define those extremities in your relationships, because you don't want to be in a situation where it's like you've got particular people who feel like they can run amok in friendship groups, run amok in the world, not knowing the danger and the harm that they're causing to other people as well as you, and you now being part of that, you now being a co-laborer in harm. That's not what friendships are for
at all.
Friendships are meant to bring out the best in you. Friends are supposed to be people that build you. Friends are meant to be the people that tell you, look, you're wrong here. I need you to stop so that you can be right later on. Get yourself together. I don't ever want to be in a situation. I could not even possibly imagine going to any of my friends' parents to try and cover up their deaths. Let's take it back a notch, right? I could never imagine having to account for some kind of injustice. We see it all the time in like bullying, for example, where folks will be saying, even in gossiping, like we'll have sisters or other friends that will be out here talking about other babes. The first port of action when your friend is misbehaving or trying to cause harm or trying to cause some kind of intentional hurt, you check them ASAP. Even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, even if they're looking at you like, who do you think you are? It's better you do it now than for you to allow this kind of rash to continue.
That's the thing. And if you don't nip it in the bud and see it as your responsibility to, no one else is going to take up that mantle, right? And even if somebody does, you have to then question for yourself, are you more preoccupied with feathering around people's ears and making sure that they're okay and being a yes woman than you are actually standing for justice and actually making sure that people are okay? And especially if it means that you're viewing bad behavior, right? And I think this is why we need to constantly, what you said, the root of it is, before even having friends, you need to desire to be a good person, and you need to actually view your friends as a tool and a resource and a help to making that situation actually happen. Not just living a good life, but actually being a good person. And a lot of people actually don't have that as their first desire. And I think if you can get anything from this podcast, realize friendship is so much more than people you can travel with. And the reason why I say this with like sisterhood in particular is, women, we can get so caught up and so misled by vanity, so misled by let's just go on the holidays, let's take those cute pictures. Like it reminds me of that episode of that woman who was like, you know, I need all my friends to be baddies and blah blah blah. And it's like, do not be misled, do not be led astray, do not be bamboozled, do not be hoodwinked, do not be scammed, and all the associated words. Friendship is more than just brunches with mimosas on a Saturday morning. It's so much more than people that you can travel with and take cute pictures with. It's so much more than people who just claim to be your friend but do not truly seek your well-being, your safety, and also show care towards you. Friendship is more than just having history with somebody and being raised with them. Friendship is more than just the person who has been in your life the longest. Friendship is about the heart, and you need to really discern the heart of the people who are around you, and also not just take an unknowing as being peaceful about a situation. If I cannot clearly see that you love me and that you care for me, for my own safety, I will not assume that the love is there because I am unsure. I actually need you to be very clear in demonstrating that you love me. And that brings us on to, I guess, the third and final angle of this, which I think from the caveats and context and explanations that we have given earlier will probably be the shortest one. But the sisters did want to hear it, which is, how do you go about picking the right friends? How important is it to have the right friends around you? Though that question may have already been answered by this entire situation.
But
also, what can you do. Maybe not to find yourself in such a dire situation, because we pray no one finds themselves even close to this kind of thing happening again. And we need to just have a conversation about setting that culture, but finding the people who will actually abide by that culture in your life, because we'll be damned if this happens in the sisterhood.
Absolutely.
But also, this is exactly why we need true sisterhood.
I'll come on to that in a second, because I was having a really interesting conversation with one of my friends around the importance of community, even in terms of like crime regulation. And ensuring that, you know, violent episodes or just crime in general is actually extremely low when we look at indigenous communities or ethnic communities. So we'll come on to that in a second. But in terms of picking good friends and choosing good friends, finding good people, I think the first thing that I can really emphasize is being a good person. Likeness attracts likeness. And I think it can't be understated that when you are the kind of person that has done deep work to facilitate your own healing, to be a better moral just person, or you have some kind of baseline. This is not to say that everyone's perception of morality will be the same. Obviously this is a diverse sisterhood, and the folks that are listening into this might not even, you know, believe in the same spiritual or moral beliefs, but some kind of underpinning desire to actually preserve lives, you know, baseline stuff. Folks that are actually interested in upholding the law, having some kind of baseline or some kind of check for how do I gauge whether I'm a good person or not, or how do I facilitate that development in my character such that I can be somebody that's a good person, or at least trying to do good in the world. I think that cannot be understated. So first of all, I would say before you start looking outside, look within and really understand, am I a good person? Is there things within me that I can do or change to continue to be a better person, to be a better sister, to manifest good? Can I be more consistent in the way that that is shown in the relationships I actually already have? So I think there's that element of it. The second is really looking at the friendships and the relationships you already have around you. I think we can be really quick to kind of be like, I'm doing the best that I can, I need to go and just find a new set of friends, when sometimes it requires, like, the relationships that you have, in order to bring out the best in those relationships, you have to tease out the best in yourself and the best in that other person. So don't just give up on your existing friendships, but after you've done the work in yourself, actually staying and trying to bring out the best in other people and seeing how that can transform those relationships, even outside of friendships, thinking about relationships with your family, for example, or other relationships that you have. Those are great indicators or great ways or great training grounds for you to really manifest the work that you've been putting into yourself as a human being. So I definitely recommend doing that. Also having some kind of notion as to what you want your friendships to actually look like is really important. I know that we do vision mapping for so many other relationships and other things that we have in our lives, but really thinking about, what do I want for my friends? What do I want for my friendships? What do I want for my relationships? How do I want this relationship to proceed? And how do I want it to make me feel? Or how do I want to support others in those friendships? I remember that we did an exercise in Tanzania where we had kind of like a vision mapping exercise of our relationships, and we had to write down a list of things that we would like from our friendships, as well as a list of things that we were willing to do for friends in other relationships. And it was a really great exercise because it really does get you thinking, okay, cool, what are my priorities when it comes to being a good friend and being able to find good friends? And what most people find is the lists are very similar, insofar as many of us are seeking the same things that we're willing to give. So again, having a lot of clarity around that, and then being able to articulate it to other people as they come along, whether it's existing friends or new friends, is super, super important. And then in terms of actually finding practically good friends, communities like this, going out into places and spaces where people that have similar interests to you frequent is super important. And now I can bring in the conversation around creating friendships within communities. I think it's really important, as much as it's cool to have, you know, I've got like my circle of friends and that's it, that's my one person. having friends within community means that it's not just a binding kind of like relationship between you two, but you actually now have the accountability of a wider community as well. Thinking about, like, for example, me and Courtney, obviously we're really, really good friends. We're best friends, but we also exist in a community of friends, and we have a community of other friends that are able to pour into us, but they're also able to hold us accountable to each other. So making sure that you can, within seeking and building fruitful friendships and relationships, actually having a wider community that can help inform the culture that you're trying to build as friends is super, super important, super key. And there's actually lots outside of like TMS. I'm sure that you guys have like friendship groups. I know there's so much stigma attached to like friendship groups when it comes to girls or women. But I think it's so, so important to ensure that your friendships are not created in isolation, and that there's actually links. And it also means that you can do character references too, because in the same way that sometimes when we are, dating folks, the anonymity can actually cause a lot of friction and tension. And in terms of building a culture, you want to make sure that you have all the information necessary, and you also have a legacy there when you're making those decisions. So that's what I would say in terms of like picking good friends. And then what I would also say is take your time with it as well. Take your time. Judging people's characters and feeling comfortable around people can take some time. And I think that if you're trying to do big things with your friends, such as traveling, for example, or doing more substantial things, like I've seen friends that are trying to buy houses together or, even living together and moving in together. Be very intentional about building up those receipts first and having those kind of like small interactions with your friends before you feel comfortable jumping into the bigger things that friends tend to do at a more mature stage of that friendship and that relationship. So essentially take your time and allow those friendships and those relationships to mature so that you feel comfortable and have enough receipts to stand on when the conflicts arise, when you have the bigger decisions that you want to make or the bigger goals that you want to achieve together.
Yeah. I think also be very protective of the light that's inside of you. So if you are going to, invest in the glowing and growing journey and becoming the best version of yourself, you have to understand that both good and bad people are going to be attracted to that. The thing about light, the thing about beauty is it attracts everything. And it now comes down to you filtering through how close you allow everything that comes to you based on knowing that you have something to protect, which is your soul. And I think a lot of us we are not protective enough of our souls, in the sense that we think that the things around us won't impact the integrity, the safety, and the beauty of this thing that we have been cultivating, that is good character, hopefulness for the future, resilience, achievements, whatever it may be. And so take time to realize that just because somebody comes and wants to be your friend doesn't mean you have to be their friend. And there is actually safety in having different levels of closeness in your friendship that don't involve, building trust doesn't have to look the same with every single friend that you have. And trusting yourself, your life, your safety in the hands of a friend is something that shouldn't be taken lightly. And I like that you said, take time to actually build up those receipts, but also take people for who they are, not necessarily just to you, but across the board. And if they are showing you, a consistently bad or even positive character outside of you, is probably a good tell of who they actually are. And you have to take people for who they actually are. Everyone's a work of progress, but in that moment, they are someone. And you've got to take them for that. And you have to be willing to decide, can I take you and your flaws? Your friends aren't going to be perfect, but they should definitely be trying. They should be trying to get better. And if they aren't showing you that consistent effort to get better with you and to get better as people, these may not be people who are progressing. These may be people who have decided, this is who I am and this is who I'm always going to be. The question now becomes on you. Do you want to journey with those people or not, knowing that they won't evolve in the direction that they may need to? And it's also not your responsibility to change people either. I think we get this obsession with, well, my good friendship can help this person change, only to the degree to which they are willing to receive, right? And some people are not open to receiving the love that we give them. They're not open to receiving the advice that we give them. They're not open to receiving the compassion that we are giving them either. And there is only so much you can bring to somebody's door before you realize they're not going to open it.
Right.
And that's not on us, right? Some people just aren't ready to be in good friendships. Some people just aren't ready to develop in that way, because everyone is on their own journey. But for your sake, you have to be able to moderate your expectations and also moderate the proximity based on what you are actually seeing. And if you are going to journey in sisterhood with somebody, you need to have not only healthy boundaries, but healthy expectations. And you need to also have faith that those expectations can be met by giving them the opportunity to meet them and show you that they are deserving of that title of friend in your life, because it's not a light title to carry. Yeah. But sisters, come to the end of that conversation. We hope that, firstly, we hope that the family of Shanquella Robinson, she's not just a case study, she was a real person. And so we just send our condolences, our prayers to you as well for comfort during this time, and for any semblance of peace, as well as just rest, just some kind of respite. But we are so sorry for your loss, and as a sisterhood we grieve with you, and our condolences to you, and we pray for justice around the situation. We pray that you get justice. To all of you sisters listening, we love you, and surround yourselves with people who love you even more than we love you. Surround yourselves with people who will care for you and want to see you not only thrive, but actually live, and live well, and live safely. Find yourself in sisterhoods and in friendships that prioritize your safety. And from the smallest of incidents of gossip to the greatest of incidents of somebody putting hands on you, do not tolerate BS. Do not tolerate a violation of boundaries. Have those hard conversations if you need to, and make those hard decisions if you need to. But we hope that you continue to thrive in this community. We hope that you find sisters who will protect and love you. But yeah, thank you for sending this episode suggestion through. Hopefully next week's one is a bit more lighthearted. We need to do a season 3 Love is Blind, season 4, season 3 Love is Blind review. Maybe we'll do that. A little bit of balance. Same. I need to finish it. A little bit of balance. But sis, we hope that you have an amazing week. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to chime into the conversation, drop a comment down below like it's hot. Let's dive straight into it. Any anecdotes that you have, any thoughts you have about this situation, we would love to hear it. Let's keep it respectful down there. Let's keep it honest, but let's keep it full of love. Okay, if you are listening to this podcast episode anywhere else apart from YouTube, that's all right. Make sure that you follow the sisterhood on Instagram, Twitter, anywhere on social media. Just type in @ToMySisterhood to get plugged in, to chime into the conversation. But whilst you are still listening to us, you can rate us 5 stars or 4 stars.
Please. 5.
Preference is 5, so please give us those ratings. Those ratings have been coming in strong as well.
We'd love
so
them.
Please rate us. It really does help the podcast to grow. But sisters, you can also follow us on our own individual glowing and growing journeys. Come and see the behind the scenes, the real all right rap. Follow the lovely lady on my right @Renee Kapuku on all social media platforms, including LinkedIn, and you can follow me as well @CD Boating or Courtney Daniela Boating here on YouTube.
Absolutely. And sisters, of course, if you haven't already, you can sign up to the mailing list. Boop, boop, boop. Legend has it that if you are not on the mailing list, you are missing out. So
100%
www.tomysisters.com. The link will be below. And also just a reminder that if you are partaking in this month's Vision Challenge, you ought to pre-order that book.
Just a few days left.
Just a few days left to get your vision submission in. And also, I mean, you get to pre-order the amazing book that we have coming out in March. So please do not delay. Other than that, sisters, we hope you enjoyed the episode. As Courtney stated, please share with us your thoughts, as well as send some love to Shanquella's family as well. We'd love to see that in the comments below. Sisters, it has been phenomenal, and of course we will see you right here again, same time next week.
It's a
date.
Will be here.
It's a date. Until then, keep glowing and growing.